What's going on, Matt?
Howdy.
We are missing somebody this week. We just, for those that are watching or listening, you'll immediately notice that Miss Elizabeth, unfortunately, is not with us this week. She is traveling, but will be rejoining us at the safety brief again the next time we go live. But shout out to her, everything she does and everything she contributes to making sure these go out on time and with a high caliber of quality content each week. So the topic today is going to be the hidden price of free apps or free applications. This could be mobile, this could be desktop, this could be anything in between. If it's a free service, we've seen historical precedent where your data gets traded for dollars. And we're going to unpack that here. Got about 30 minutes or so, the discussion for today. But Matt, first things first, what's maybe, is there an app that comes to mind or a recent story that comes to mind as we unpack this topic?
Oh no, there's never a meta anything that would ever meta come to mind about a meta. No. So I mean, let's be honest here. Any app that you use that is free, there is a hidden cost that's associated with it. These apps have to make money somewhere, somehow, some way. Otherwise, they're not going to stay in business. Now, some of them are a little bit more ethical in the ways that they do things than others. The one that I brought up, Meta, has two extremely egregious violations against them on how they conduct their business with your data. So, first thing I should say is when there is a free application, free service, free whatever, it's not free. You are the service. Okay? They are making money off of you in some way, shape, or form. There is never a free application. There are some free objects that are out there, but even those people donate to help keep them running, or they're just done as a labor of love. But they're also not huge projects. They're not something like a large scale social media network that has countless amounts of requirements for data transfer, cloud storage, etc. So when we're talking about, using something like Meta, you are going to be their source of income. Now, how do they do that? Well, there's a couple different ways. They use tracking cookies, which is one thing. So they understand where you go, what you do, what you interact with, and this allows them to kind of segue into number two, which is advertisement and ad revenue. So they make money based off of targeted ads that are basically you telling them, I like doing this because if you have their tab open, they see where else you're going, or they see where you're going from their website. So advertisers pay, you go to their product because it's targeted to you. Meta gets a kickback based on, if people buy from them or buy, something from the vendor. And, it all works out in the end for them. What doesn't work out is when they do something like selling your data to Cambridge Analytics without your consent, knowledge, or understanding of what they're going to leverage that data for. And that's the hidden cost right there. You do not have control over your data. If you read the end user license agreement, which nobody does because they are made insanely long to kind of prevent you from reading that. And let's be honest, humans are stupid. So, I have a button on my mouse that I can click and it unlocks my scroll wheel. So I could just click that and scroll down and it infinitely will scroll for me. So getting to the bottom of those agreements is really fast for me now. But you should read that because if you look in there, it states that anything that you upload to their service, you have voluntarily given them permission to use. This includes your likeness, your voice, any pictures of others that you upload can be used. All of that is something that can be leveraged for them to make money off of. And it's a terrible, terrible way to do that because you have no control over this. You don't know who they're selling it to. You don't know what their intentions are with that data. In this world that we live in right now, any picture that's out there that is given to a source that you don't have control over, I'd be worried about. You don't know what they could use that for. What if somebody wants to blackmail you? What if somebody wants to use your voice combined with the photo they have, use some AI wizardry, and make a very cool deepfake out of it? We're already seeing that happen. AI is being used in absolutely fantastic ways. Some of it is absolutely and utterly terrifying. Recently, I saw a slight side note. There's a company that created a robot that has the ability to mimic dance moves. I'm
We're
arguably,
doomed.
I'm seriously waiting until somebody weaponizes one of those, and it does a Fortnite style dance after shooting somebody. Literally waiting on this. It's going to do the gritty after offing somebody. Like seriously, that's just, we're in a terrifying time right now. But that's
We
all
are.
the data that is being used.
Yeah.
What if that data was used and given to, say, a bad actor that had access to, drones that are weaponized?
Yeah.
The location data, being able to, I mean, even if there's no EXIF data when it's published, which, to their credit, Meta does strip all of the EXIF data out of pictures when they're uploaded. So you can't go in there and find the exact location that was taken very easily. Enter artificial intelligence, which can actually go through and pull that data without you even needing to have the EXIF data in there, by doing correlation with other images that it sees on the internet and finding almost an exact location for you. Or somebody like me who can just Google Maps and find exactly where something is when given a very
GeoGuessr.
Yeah.
GeoGuessr veteran here. Yeah.
That was awesome.
That's right. Well, listen, if you're just joining us here in the Safety Brief, just a quick aside, this is our routine, regular deep dive into the world of cybersecurity, hosted by BLOKWORX. Myself and Matt are two members of the team. However, in this rotation, you'll see and hear from a lot of different people, a lot of different insights, and a lot of different time on water experience. The topic today specifically that Matt's already unpacking and we have questions for here is specifically free applications. What is the hidden price? Is there a hidden price? Google Chrome costs all of us $0, but what is there maybe behind the curtain that there is in the way of value for them to offer those free apps to us at no cost? But there's got to be money made somewhere, right? So the first formal question we have to unpack is why are so many applications offered for free, and where is the money in it? Take Reddit, for example.
Yeah, so Reddit, a lot of people donated to Reddit. Reddit was, grassroots, or was, until they went IPO, went all corporate, and their support team stops responding to any response or question that you submit to them. We're still waiting on that to be unblocked, Reddit. Just throwing that out there. Any year now would be fantastic. So they get money from people that donate. They get money from sponsors. They get money on the back end that helps keep them afloat. A lot of times, because some of these things are built from the ground up as grassroots, they already own the tech. They own the hardware that it's being run on. So that's one less cost that they have to actually look into versus others that are renting out tech in order to leverage that and, kind of run everything. The ad revenue is also a big thing. I mean, if you notice on Reddit, there are advertisements. There are posts that are sponsored. Hell, they're on X, they're on Instagram, they're on everything. There's advertisements. A lot of times, they'll tap into influencers. I mean, my thoughts on influencers. It's people that don't have any actual marketable skill set that are trying to sell you snake oil. Basically, just, yeah. We won't get into the thoughts on influencers here, but they help to drive business. So you get somebody that's huge, like somebody with the last name of Jenner or Kardashian. Again, influencer has no marketable skill set. It's true. You have a bunch of people that follow you. All you have to do is say, you should go buy this. Well, your company is now going to make a whole bunch of money off of people that are following because they are sheep. That's all it is. That's how these companies make money. You get somebody that's huge to make a post on a platform. That's going to draw in more people. They may not have been subscribers before. They may not have been active users before. They're going to create an account. They're going to give you more web traffic. They're going to talk about it. So it's going to be, they may have paid X amount for that post, but they're going to get back a return on investment that's much larger than that. And that helps keep them going. So that's kind of, long and
Yeah.
short how they're making their money. It's not always off of you, but sometimes off of you indirectly.
Yeah. No, it's a great point because even, again, if you have like a browser like Google Chrome or any of these other ones we paid $0 to get access to this application, and I didn't have to sign a licensing agreement. I had to agree to the terms and conditions, but I didn't pay anything. And what's interesting is if you look in the Google Chrome settings of what's cached, there are audio, there are visual, there are educational, there are relational, like different ad markers based on your activities. So, hey, based on you searching whatever form of graduate or undergraduate degree, we'll say, you're going to see advertisements in your Google Chrome browser embedded that carry along with your web traffic. That's why you'll see those ads. And, everyone jokes about, you talk about cat food loud enough to your phone, and next day you see on Instagram or wherever it is, you see all these ads of cats and things. It's again, these cookies and these trackers that are following you. And this isn't a conspiracy. This isn't pie in the sky thinking. There are real data points tracking user behavior in web browsers that do that automatically. Now, there are some browsers, like I know in Chrome, you can disable some of these things. You can use things like Brave, where they're built on Chrome, but they have trackers blocked by default, things of that nature. But again, these are the ways that companies are able to make money, to offer you these really stable, really well-developed platforms as an entry point, as a gateway, almost as Matt said, to knowing that you're going to be a customer in the very near future. And that data is worth far more than anything monetarily that you can possibly get, which is why we see a lot of things pivoting towards, even in games, in the gaming industry, we've seen a lot of free-to-play games drop. Well, how is that the case? Well, we know because once we get you in the door, the drinks at the casino are cheap, the food's cheap. Where are we going to make up the money? At the slots, right? And so it's very, very important for users and CISOs alike to trace, hey, how much does something cost? Why does it cost that? Is the cost being subsidized by something, or something eating some of that cost in the way of data? So cash is not always the single focal point to make a decision on. Obviously, it drives budgets and business, right? I'm not saying that, but there is significant caution to be had around either business or personal technology decisions driven around, an app. Again, I pay for, I don't have a lot of social media accounts. I pay for one specifically. Why? Because I don't have to see advertisements. My activity is not tracked. I get to pay. That's a paid tier. So, but the benefit for that is I am knowing what I am getting for that paid tier and what privacy controls I'm paying for. If you go to buy a web domain, you can pay extra to have the who is and that information anonymized, right? So again, there's costs associated with privacy far more than maybe people realize. But I guess the next question that we can unpack is, how do companies ensure that the data they collect is monetized effectively? Meaning, what is of use if I use, we're looking at IoT. If I use a baby monitor, if I use an Echo Dot, hey, Amazon gave me the Echo Dot. What value is it to them behind that data and that use?
Well, they tend to give those products to people that are outside their target demographics because they don't have enough data to really support, what people are looking at, what they want. Now, one of the things that it hasn't been proven completely, but think about your cell phone. Give somebody a cell phone. And cell phones, again, not 100% proven, but it seems to be a very interesting coincidence that you can be out walking around not near any form of technology aside from your cell phone, and something you're talking about then shows up on your computer as a targeted ad. Okay, well, why is that? Well, what better way to get information about people than to listen to their conversations and then monetize them? Same thing happens with Amazon and the Echo. There's actually part of the agreement that states that they listen to conversations. There's supposed to be very strict procedures and policies around what they can actually do with what they hear.
Right.
but they are actively listening to conversations if you have, that technology in your environment. Even more terrifying is the fact that they're now about to start bringing out an update that has AI on the back end. So what exactly is that AI going to do? Is it going to scrape things? Are we going to have another Slack situation on our hands? I mean, I find that even funnier that, correct me if I'm wrong, Slack has a free tier, doesn't it?
It does.
And even the paid tier, they're scraping data of the paid tier. Like all user content is being scraped and used for their AI learning models. Again, that's not even the free tier. The paid tier, I think you should have a little bit of, control over what they're taking, because if they take something that has, proprietary information and it ends up in a learning model and somebody queries and they find out that information, well, Slack isn't going to be Slack anymore. Slack going to be not worth jack. That's going to be their new name. And it would be a bad situation. But again, the free tier, they're scraping that data. So you become the product. You're helping them build their new product. The AI models that they're building, let's be honest, they're not advanced, but they need a large data set. The best way to get that is all the data that everybody has already provided. Because based on the license agreement, they can use it.
Right.
It's fair game. It's easy. So that's where the data scientists come into play. You asked, how do you effectively utilize the data that's being collected? Well, that's where the data science nerds come in. I have some knowledge in data science. I have some certs in data science. I can tell you that, you can use RStudio to build some very impressive models and pull data based off of very specific sets that you want. One of the things that was actually shown or that I went through during one of the courses was murders per city. It's readily available data. Every city reports it. So having data that is already uniform, that is already organized, you can use that and you can build models for anything that you want. Targeted engagement, where underrepresented segments are in your demographic. If you have a group where you've got, over here everybody has an Echo Dot or an Echo Show or something else, then you've got this segment over here where there's a whole bunch of nothing. You want that data pulled from that segment of nothing to understand why there's nothing. Why is there such a minimal representation over there? What do you need to change? So that data gives you, how do you target that group? Then your marketing team knows, okay, this is where we're missing. Our target marketing is towards this group that's already saturated. We need to shift that so that we can hit this group that isn't. So you're basically doing the job of their marketing team for them by giving them information or not giving them information. Either way. Your lack of doing things is doing things. As weird as that sounds.
Yeah. No, and to the point that you made around Echo Dots and smart home and IoT devices, there's a reason you don't find these things in a large majority in doctor's office, in financial firms, right? Like they are absolutely listening. How does the microphone know you say, hey, Alexa or Siri or whatever, if it's not always listening, right? So I think a lot of people may hear that and they may be, well, that's a little too tinfoil hat for me. I was like, okay, well, number one, the microphone is always on. Period. End of story. The tool wouldn't function if that wasn't the case. The question is what is it doing with all the data in between the hey Alexas, hey Siris, hey Googles, and the next instance of that command activated, right? And so, but again, we see the price of these very drastically. If you look at the cost of the Google Home, you look at the cost of the Echo Dot in comparison of the Apple tools, and I'm not saying Apple's infallible, but Apple is known to openly tout and brag on privacy as a core value. There's a reason, more so than everything Apple's more expensive, that may be an eighth of the cost than compared to the other device from Google or Amazon. Who's eating the cost of that device, that cost of that hardware, so that it could be made available, right?
One thing you mentioned was always on. if the microphone wasn't always on, why is there a mute button? I mean, it literally has a mute button. I've had to explain this to a relative of mine that pushing the mute button means that it's not going to actually hear you. Unless you push that button, the thing's listening to everything you're saying. And all that information is being stored in a cloud somewhere.
Yeah.
So just think about that.
Food
Mine's actually unplugged. In the main areas, it is unplugged.
It's the safest way.
I refuse to leave it on because it will randomly, I'll walk in the kitchen, now playing, shut up. I didn't ask you to turn on. Nobody wants to listen to music.
I'm just scooping ice cream. I don't need thunderstroke.
The artificial intelligence is sitting here saying, you know what? You're scooping out mint chocolate chip ice cream. You need a bossa nova to go along with that. No, I really don't.
You know, that actually, there may be a case for that. That's pretty compelling.
There may be a
at
case
a party,
for that, but
not in my house. At a party, that'd be cool.
That would be a runtime, though. You know,
that's right.
If I open the freezer and I grab the mint chocolate chip, I want you to automatically dim the lights and play a bossa nova.
That's right. That's right. But, and then the pressure sensor on the shelf knows you took the ice cream off, just like in the Amazon walk-and-go store.
And lets me know how full it is and if I need to buy more.
Automatically orders it for you.
Like they have smart fridges that do that.
That's right. That's right. That's real. That's real. Yeah. When you're if anybody doesn't know, Matt and I are being comical to a degree, but if anybody's worked with any of these Amazon walk-in and pay and go stores, you'll notice it, but no exaggeration, no hyperbole here, no less than about 85 cameras and sensors in the ceiling alone, along with shelf-based pressure sensors, right? You just go in, you grab what you need, but I feel uncomfortable. You know, I feel as uncomfortable as if you're getting an x-ray and you need like a lead vest on to keep you from all the radiation. It's like there are so many sensors on you at that point. But
just gonna throw this out there. You can put a hat with a power source and put infrared LEDs.
Oh my word! You blind them all.
Pop that on and it kills the camera. I can't see anything.
Oh my word! Well, the hidden price of free apps is get your infrared beanie now here at mattsonlinewebsite.com or whatever it is.
Just saying, I do question.
Not a real website
for the better good.
That's right. No, that's sharp. That's sharp. Well, listen, we got two more questions before we wrap up the discussion, but specifically, we already talked about it a little bit within the scope of HIPAA and doctor's office and medical practice, but what regulations or laws are currently in place to protect users' data, or how effective are these laws?
In the U.S., there's HIPAA, obviously. Not very effective. I'll give you a little bit of a story. I used to work with a hospital up in the Northeast. It was the New England Medical Center for Kids. We were very strictly adhering to HIPAA as the service desk for them. Mind you, I was super young when I was doing this, but I took it seriously because healthcare information is something that is extremely valuable to the right buyers. Well, HIPAA has to be followed by the practitioners that are supposed to be bound to those regulations. I can cite no less than 5 times that I was asked to openly break HIPAA violations because people were too lazy to follow procedure. I'm talking, I had the chief of medicine get on a call with me and say, I am the chief of medicine and I am ordering you to reset this person's password. To which I said, I don't care if you're the chief of the universe. If they don't follow procedure, I'm not doing it. They threatened to fire me, and I said, would you like the regulatory board to actually hear about your willingness of violating HIPAA? Because I'm pretty sure that you wouldn't like that. You can come after me for following procedure, but you're not following procedure. So there's nobody that's holding anybody accountable to this. It's out there, but there's nobody at these hospitals that's saying, you need to make sure you're doing this. No, because that's paperwork. They don't want to do paperwork. Are you kidding me? That they do enough of that.
Yeah.
Doing a password reset, they don't want to have to go through and follow, the Vogon process of filling out everything in triplicate and then listening to terrible poetry if it's not done right. I mean, that's just, they don't want that. Now, overseas, completely different. Overseas, they implemented GDPR. Ever see what happens if you violate GDPR?
Yeah, big fines.
big
Big
fines.
fines.
Like you
Big
feel like
accountability.
you're back in an era where
Big accountability.
you can get thrown in the gulag for stuff, man.
Yeah,
It's harsh. But you know what?
it is.
Sure don't see people violating GDPR at all over
No,
there. In
they're leading
fact,
the way.
you
They're leading the
don't
way.
see user data being sold over in Europe unless it's by threat actors who stole it in the first place. And they're
Right.
not going to follow the rules anyways. So they're not really a good data set for this.
Right.
But you don't see them doing that. In fact, they were the first ones to actually put in regulations around AI.
Correct.
The US is still sitting here like, well, maybe Skynet won't blow us up. Over there in Europe, they're like, screw you, we're saving John Connor. That's what we're doing. The rest of us are just kind of floating along like, okay, well,
Hope it
when do
doesn't
we get
get me.
those weaponized robot dogs again?
Yeah. Let me make sure I say please and thank you to my Echo Dot so that it remembers my kindness, you know? Yeah.
Make sure you put your name on robots.txt and get it up on the web. So that way, when the overlords do take over, they find that you are a sympathetic soul and they will take mercy on you.
If you understand that Easter egg, you know your way around Linux. Maybe.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Well, that and also the Google thing. When Google was first formed,
that's right.
They updated the founders of Google put themselves on the robots.txt.
I love that.
Because they figured that when AI took over, they wanted to make sure that they were spared.
I love that.
Go figure.
They
knew about this long ago. It is really dark outside.
They get it. Well, you know what's also interesting is specifically we talk about the difference between GDPR and overseas, primarily in Europe and here in the United States. But the other component to this too is this is a practical application. If you're listening to this and you haven't maybe looked at this, scroll down to the bottom of any maybe major website. There's typically a section that says "Do not sell my information." You click here, and it's a form. It's specifically driven out of California, I believe, is where the legislation started. But it talks about California residents and depending on certain states that are also adopting this. But there's a form that you fill out that says it could be Planet Fitness, it could be your bank, it could be Facebook, it could be whoever. But there are now forms that are required by websites to now host and say, hey, it is not allowed. It's not sanctioned to sell this user's data if they fill out this form. So it's a very opt-in. You've opted in if you don't fill out the form, but it's super shady and slimy in that way. It's like your continuation of this platform means you approve to anything we do with it, right? Like one of those terms and conditions. But it's interesting because if you haven't seen this, seriously, scroll down at the bottom of any form, any email maybe that you get from any subscribe service you have or any website you visit, and there is most often now largely becoming a do not sell my information form at the bottom of the website. So I encourage you to fill that out. It could only, obviously if it's not a malicious link, check the link, verify it, just don't go to it. But specifically the point is that people are recognizing the need for forms like this for, hey, how is my data handled? 23andMe, great example of a paid service that had a breach and where personal data was leaked. So even if you're paying for it, doesn't mean that your data is being handled responsibly. It just means that there may be further capital invested into the privacy of that. Go ahead.
I'm going to nerd out for a second here because this is something that I think people need to be aware of. We talk about the free services that make you into a product. What if that free service is doing this and it's not the most ethical way of doing it? This is again Meta, but this also involves Amazon. So for those of you that aren't aware, Facebook, Meta, owns Snapchat and Instagram. Well, Snapchat is fully encrypted end to end. So once you start a message with a person on Snapchat, there's no way to see the contents of that message. Inside Meta, there was apparently a gripe session where they said we don't have enough information surrounding Snapchat to really see what our users are doing or how they're interacting or how we can get better engagement. So I'm sure people have heard of the term man in the middle. Did you know that Meta turned into the largest man in the middle doing the most unethical thing that they possibly could? Meta, when you went to their website, which would, Facebook, went ahead and installed a certificate on your computer. It was a root certificate. Not only this, they also did it on mobile devices. Specifically, they were targeting mobile devices because most people using Snapchat are on mobile. That certificate that they installed, acting as a man in the middle, gave them access to every bit of data that was going through Snapchat before it was encrypted. And it was sent over to Meta so that they could use that data for analysis to find out how they could better engage. So that's something that, is interesting, but they also used that with Amazon so that they could get better information, or Amazon could get better information about the users on Facebook and provide better targeted ads. So again, free service, you're the product. The funny thing is, these same idiots that did that are being called in front of Congress and Senate and all these powers that be in Washington to talk about security. They are the biggest breach of security I've ever seen, and we want to ask them how to secure things? I'm pretty sure that Zuck's bunker that he's building, all I'd have to do is walk up and say, "All hail Facebook," and the damn thing would open. Because he knows about, they know as much about security as a Walmart greeter. And let's be honest here. They don't care about keeping your data safe. They care about monetizing it and making money from it.
But at least you get a smiley face sticker when you walk in,
At Walmart.
That is, yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's some value.
Get that.
You didn't pay for that sticker,
At Facebook, I just get toxicity. That's all I get to walk in there.
That's right. I love that. Well, listen, let's wrap it up. I think the last thing is just practical application, right? So for those listening that maybe had their mind blown by some of these things, maybe they haven't heard any of these things before. Some of this is not new. Some of these things, everyone's very much aware of now. And I appreciate just seeing professionals in the space also recognize that privacy is a bigger priority than maybe it's historically been within software development. We're not going to unpack Microsoft's recall feature today, but that's a privacy liability left and right. And feel free to direct message any of us offline and we can unpack that. But what would you say some personal steps are, Matt, for users and users at an enterprise or enterprise decision makers around protecting data and maybe acceptable use guideline policies specific to free applications in the workplace?
Kill all technology. No, seriously, vet the technology that you're planning on using. Vet the technology. Have conversations with the vendors. Ask them how they plan to use your data. Ask them if there's a way to opt out of your data being included in data sets, models, trainings, things like that. The more that you ask, the more you know. If a vendor's not able to give you an answer or says, "Well, we don't know, we'd have to think about that," you know what? No thought required. You're not interested.
No, spot on. And I'd close us with this. There's 3 big questions to ask. It could be your cell phone provider, could be some new online subscription you're going with, but the 3 questions to ask are: where is my data stored geographically? Who has access to that data, and will it ever be sold? Is it subject to being sold? Those are the big 3. So where is that data geographically speaking? For BLOKWORX, all of our data and all of our partners' data resides physically in the United States, geo-redundantly backed up. That is a big piece of our business, is making sure that from a security provider perspective, that data cannot leave the country. It does not leave the company. We don't outsource any of our services. So who can access that data is only those that need to, nobody that doesn't need to. And obviously, we never sell that data. But again, those are the big 3. Where does it reside? Who has access to it? And will it ever be sold? Those are big 3 that I'd have to give. But that being said, listen, I appreciate everybody that engaged with us here. It's definitely something we can go on and talk about longer, but that's all the time we have for today. Remember, keep these things in mind, keep them close, share them with your friends and your family. The safety brief goes on, and we have access via Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, wherever we can be, and then some. But if you have any topics, any feedback, anything that we can possibly cover in the near future, go ahead and email us at thesafetybrief@blockworks.com. That's THESAFETYBRIEF@blockworks.com. BLOKWORX. Thank you so much, Matt. Great topic today. Elizabeth, safe travels as you travel. We're so grateful for you and everything you bring to this platform. Looking forward to having you back next time. But for today, that's all we have. Stay frosty, everybody.